Okay. So as we settle into our space, where we are in our practice, we know that asana is a lot more, that yoga is a lot more than the asana. It's a lot more than the shapes that we take. But the shapes that we take allow us to come into the breath, which allow us that insight and clarity and that space to heal and reveal and to get in touch with that inner guru, that inner guide, which is really what we're all here for. So I just invite each one of us to give ourselves permission to let that inner guru rule and reign through our practice tonight. So if I suggest something and your body needs something different, please, please, please honor whatever your intuition is guiding you to do. So let's begin with just a big collective breath. So take an inhale. It doesn't have to be super deep. And exhale, maybe make a sound. Maybe even shake it out if that feels okay for you, especially if you are feeling unsettled. And we'll do that maybe just a couple more times. So taking an inhale and exhale, let yourself either shake it out or start to settle in, come into a space of stillness. And one more time. Deep inhale and exhale, softly landing wherever you are. Notice how it feels to connect your body to Mother Earth. Just notice every part of this temple that's in contact with Earth Mother, how that feels. Notice if we're holding on, gripping, we feel ourselves kind of feeling light. We want to give ourselves permission to feel a little heavier as the practice continues, because that means we're letting go. We're trusting Mama Earth to hold us a little bit more. So no judgment, just noticing. What are you present to right now in your body as you simply make the connection to Mother Earth? And by making that connection to Mother Earth, also allowing the connection to this present moment, the only one that we have. And permission for all of us to be here, all of who we are, all of our emotions, all of our thoughts, all of our intentions, our hopes and joys and fears, all of everything. Welcome right here in this moment. How does that feel to have that permission? And then I'd like to invite each one of us to get very present with our sankalpa, our intention. So our sangha sankalpa, our group intention, is to just allow ourselves to be present. Our mantra for this evening is Om Namah Shivaya. I surrender to the consciousness that I am, or I trust, I revere, I honor the Guru within me, the divinity that I am, the knowing that I am. So seeing how that sits in your body, that intention, feel free to tweak it to make it your own, and to also bring in whatever your Jeev Sankalpa, whatever your individual intention is as well. And then with each exhale, allowing ourselves to just rest a little more trustingly on Mama Earth. To maybe just soften a little more. In this moment, I'm right here. In this moment, I'm okay. Breathing into that okayness. Creating space for a sense of ease and trust. Not forcing, not manufacturing, just inviting. And so as you allow yourself to come into that intention and come into this space, I'll open our class with our mantra as we always do. calling in our gurus and guides, whoever we recognize those beings, those energies to be. So as I usher in the wisdom of our ancestors and the ancestors of the lands on which we dwell, for me it's the Tongva Nation, the ancestors of our bloodlines and our spiritual lines, and our lines of yoga. I invite you to also call in all of your guides, your teachers, your ancestors, your guides, anyone and everything that has been a significant part of your journey, offering gratitude and offering their wisdom to come and meet us here. Kanda mandala kara yatamina chara chara tajparam darshita ina tasmai shri gurave namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Janulam Guru Murti, Janulam Guru Para, Janulam Guru Vakya, Janulam Guru Hari Om Namah Jannikai Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalani Durga Kshama Shivaratri Swaha Swaha Namostute Upam Dehi Jayam Dehi Yesho Dehi Risho Jahi. So there's no rush. When and as you're ready, we'll make our way into child's pose, into Balasana. So we're going to be working with some twists tonight. And the beautiful thing about twists is that we get to explore a different range of motion and allowing our breath to meet us in those more constrictive shapes, which is great practice for off the mat too, which is really what all of this is about, right? But then we get to come back to center. We get to come back to that Om Namah Shivaya, the truth of who we are. So no matter what life twists and turns, however it twists and turns, we always get to come back to the truth of our breath and our divinity and the love that we are. So for this child's pose, you might take your knees wide. You might have your knees together, but please do have your big toes touching. Hips are going to reach back toward your heels. If your lower back is tight, you might put a blanket or a cushion underneath your seat bones, and then crawl your heart space forward, maybe even taking another cushion or bolster and placing it here. So this is a very restorative version, a very supported version of Balasana. You can explore how it feels to add more or less support depending on what you need. So permission to explore, move around, see what you need, and then land in the space that feels appropriate for you. So child's pose is such a lovely starting point because it's a nice anchor. So when you get settled into that pose, whatever variation you decide to take this evening, I'd like to invite you to then come into your breath. Feel the earth, and then just notice your breathing pattern. So we're not trying to change or manipulate too much. We're cultivating that sense of awareness. And with that awareness, we feel where we're feeling, where we're holding any tension or tightness. And then we're giving that prana, that breath, permission to go into those spaces. And then we can just sort of release all of that to Mama Earth. So just notice how that feels. Focus on the exhale if you're having a hard time getting that breath to go as deep as you'd like. So let go of any of that. Just exhale completely. Let go of the old air completely. And then see if there's a little more ease with receiving that new prana, that new breath. And of course, you can have your arms out in front of you, but you might also just take your hands back behind you or even between your thighs, reaching back towards your feet, head turned to one side. This can feel a little more nurturing, maybe. If you want to explore the shoulders, it might feel better to have those arms out. So again, explore, settle where you'd like, move if you need to. So you can, if your mind is doing that thing that it does with the incessant thinking, you can anchor it into that mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, or Soham, or any mantra or affirmation that feels grounding and supportive for you. Soham is I am that, capital T, that. All that is awe-inspiring, all that is divine, I am that. That's our true nature. And that's what we're anchoring into. So just a few more breaths here, and then we'll start to create a little more space and prepare for our first twist. When you're ready, of course, you're always welcome to stay much longer in a shape if you'd like. When you're ready, take an inhale, reach those arms way out in front of you. And then exhale, walk your hands over to the left. So your heart is going to drape over or toward your left knee or thigh. You might take some support here and let yourself just rest on that cushion. So if we were doing a hatha class, we would really pull to the left as far as we could. This is restorative though, and we'll be holding this shape a little bit longer. So permission to find the ease in this pose. So when you first feel that opening on the right side, allowing the anchor to drop, and allowing ourselves to arrive in this space. And sometimes we think that if it doesn't feel super uncomfortable, we're not doing anything. And that's simply not true. Tonight we get to simply create space to get that prana moving through a little bit more. So notice how your breathing may have shifted even just with coming over to the left side. Depending on your body's anatomy, you might start to already feel that constriction, the belly pushing into the thigh. So notice that. As much as you can, just breathe with it. And of course, if at any point we start to feel a little panicky or a little anxious because we feel too much constriction, please do come out of the pose. We don't want to harm ourselves, right? We practice ahimsa, non-harming. And that's on and off the mat. So tonight's not about pushing our limits. It's about being with what is. Be here for about 6 or so more breaths. When you're ready, take a nice inhale. Maybe an audible exhale or even a breath of Kali. And then from here, we're going to come right into that twist. So if you're using support, you might set it aside, but still keep it within arm's reach. Right arm is just going to reach over to the left a little bit more so that we come to rest on the right shoulder. Left arm is going to go up. We might actually come up onto our knees. This is the variation that I like. And then take that wrap with the left arm coming back behind. So this is going to be a little more active. It might help to just come up onto your knees to take this shape and then let those hips fall back toward the heels, finding a variation of this twist that serves you. If the twisted version doesn't feel okay for you for whatever reason, then please feel free to stay right here and just anchor into this breath a little bit longer. Because again, we're all in different places. So we want to make sure that we can breathe. So part of the intention with this practice tonight, right, is to feel the constriction, to notice how our nervous systems respond and react when we feel the constriction of the breath, and to see if we can be present enough to bring the breath into that tension, into the constriction. But if we start to feel that baseline of anxiety rising, please just come out of the pose, because we want to allow ourselves space to self-regulate and to rest and to calm our nervous systems down on the mat tonight so that we can take these tools with us when we go off the mat tomorrow. And again, what are our tools of resource, of grounding? Right, we have Ujjayi breath. There's also Brahmari breath, bumblebee breath. So you can take an inhale and then you hum the exhale, or om, with your mouth closed. So it sounds like this. Really lovely for the nervous system. And since you get to be all by yourself in your home tonight and not in the class setting, you can definitely play around with sound, audible exhales, whatever you need.
And of course, we have our mantras, Om Namah Shivaya, Soham. So use the tools that are effective for you, that you already know are effective, and you can play around with some new ideas and see if you want to add those to your toolbox. We'll be here just about a minute longer. Last couple of breaths. If there's any space to soften just a little bit more. And then when you're ready, moving with your breath at your pace, slowly unwind. If you are holding that wrap, slowly unwind out of the twist.
Come back to where we started, reaching over to the left. Just feel any difference, any opening, any softening. And then take an inhale here. And then exhale, come back to center. And then when you get to center, permission to just explore. What are you noticing in your body? What are you noticing in your breath? What are you noticing in your thought pattern? Your heart rate? Any subtle changes? It's not about changing to fix, right? It's just we're noticing how our bodies respond to the practices of yoga. That's all. Just a few more breaths here, maybe even adding one of those Buddha-Mahi breaths now that we're back at center. So the bumblebee breath. Big inhale. And then exhale with the hum. That's delightful. It's one of my favorites. So good for your nervous system too. And then, my loves, we're going to take that sequence to the other side. So take your time. Sometimes when we know where we're going, we sort of hastily make our way into it. So I invite you to go even a little more slowly so that we aren't tempted to just kind of take for granted the transition. So nice and slowly take an inhale and then exhale, walk those hands over to the right this time. Left hand comes close to the right, heart will drape sort of over that right knee-ish, depending on how our bodies are. Again, you might find that support. This side is different. You might use more support on this side. You might use less than you did on the other side. So we say this a lot, but I think it's worth repeating that symmetry does not equal balance in asana. So our aim is not to make both sides symmetrical in the way that we show up for each side. It's to create a sense of balance and harmony. So all throughout our days, we're carrying our bodies differently, so it creates disharmony between the two sides, right? Sometimes we carry things on the right shoulder and not the left. So tonight's practice, when we show up for each side as it needs, even if it doesn't look symmetrical with the other side, it's creating that sense of balance and harmony. That's what we're looking for. So permission to be you and to give yourself exactly what you need. So landing, allowing Mama Earth to hold us, to heal us, allowing the prana to travel, allowing the guru to speak, our own innate wisdom to rise up, to surface. Take about 5 or 6 more breaths here. Of course, more if you'd like. And take an inhale. Some kind of audible exhale or any kind of exhale that sort of ritualizes that we're about to transition. Right? This whole practice is one beautiful meditation. It's one ritual of healing. So allowing ourselves to take those little pauses for the ritual, right? And then we'll make our way into that twist. So setting any props aside, the left arm is going to travel over to the right, maybe a little bit more. Perhaps we come up onto the knees so that we can find that extension in both the spine and the right arm, taking an inhale. Exhale, allowing the right arm to gently wrap behind us if that's available. It can also rest right up here, sort of on the hip. You can do that as well. And then setting your hips back toward your heels. So if this is a little bit much, this variation of the wrap, you can also just sort of let your arm drape hanging out on your back as well for your hip. So again, there are lots of variations available to you depending on what your body is asking for. And as we exhale into this shape, as we exhale into this moment and into our intention that might be evolving as the practice, continues, just notice what you're present to. All of it. Notice the sounds. Notice any scents, any fragrances in your room, in your space. Notice the thoughts. And exhale into everything that you're present with. And then see if some of the things begin to shift from feeling burdensome or overwhelming. Maybe if we exhale into them, they can shift into becoming a solid foundation on which this moment is built. And that's it. Nothing to be overwhelmed or annoyed by. Just an opportunity, a guide into presence. We'll take about 5 or so more breaths here. And then as you come into that final breath for this asana, when you're ready, find a way to ritualize the work that you've done here in this shape with an audible exhale or a breath of Kali or however you want to express that ritual. And then begin to unwind out of this shape. Really take your time. Come back to that starting point, reaching over into the masculine, right? We're reaching over to the right side to open the feminine. So notice how we do that. Notice that beautiful symbiotic relationship between the masculine and the feminine, not gender, just the energy. And then when and as you're ready, take that inhale and allow the exhale to gently guide you back to center. Coming back into Balasana one more time to just drink in the soma or the nectar of this moment and the response of our bodies and our breathing to just those simple movements and invitations to expand and open. And then of course there's no rush at all. When you're ready, we'll meet in a seat. So Sukhasana. Sukhasana, this simple cross-legged pose, is often translated as easy pose, but it's actually, the translation is actually pose of ease. There's a big difference between easy pose and pose of ease. So as you come into your variation of Sukhasana, pose of ease, your lower back is tight, give yourself that support, whatever you need. Maybe even asking yourself, what do I need to allow this pose to be of ease? And then honoring that. And before we come into a seated twist, we'll give our necks and shoulders an opportunity to arrive here with us, to open a little bit more, to create some space. So hands can just rest on your lap, or you can take Yan Mudra, bringing your thumb and index fingers together, fingers straight out, resting on the knees, or Shanti Mudra, where you, same thing, you just soften the fingers. Or you can just place those palms on your knees and allow yourself to feel a little, this might feel a little more grounding. Okay, so we'll take an inhale. And exhale, very gently allow the chin to start to drop down toward the chest. I like to think of this as the throat and heart chakras coming together so that we are speaking what's in our hearts to speak, right? There's sort of that union happening as well. So we're lifting up through the heart chakra. We're rooted, right, in the root. We're breathing into the sacral and solar plexus. And then the heart is lifting and the throat, they're kind of reaching for each other. And the crown bows to the earth. And the wisdom center bows to the earth. So just notice that. And in doing so, we're releasing all of this tension of feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders by allowing our divinity to bow and honor our humanity. To give ourselves the grace of being human. And then when and as you're ready, just very gently start to take some neck rolls maybe. So be very gentle, especially if your neck is sensitive. Like my neck is very sensitive. So move with the breath. It's a moving meditation. We're not taking neck circles. We're not taking the neck all the way around. That can be really dangerous, actually. We're just creating space, right, through the necks and the shoulders. If there's a spot that feels a little sticky and it feels good for you to sort of pause and exhale into that space, please give yourself permission to do that. And then the next time your left ear rolls over your left shoulder, maybe just pause there. Take an inhale. Exhale, let the right shoulder roll back and down so that we create a little more space, not only through the neck and shoulder, but also here through the collarbone. You can also drop that right hand behind you or walk the right fingertips out a little bit. So again, lots of variations. Play around and see what feels good so that we feel like we're opening and stretching, but not causing any pain and not really even causing any discomfort, just that stretch that feels really good. And softening the jaw. I just caught my jaw like. So permission to soften the jaw. Permission to concentrate on the exhale. Permission to embrace all of our beautiful, messy humanity. And in doing so, reaching for and unearthing that divinity. It doesn't change our divinity. But we don't have to have one without the other. We can have both. So when you're ready, taking an inhale here. Exhale, returning back to center with the chin coming back toward the heart space. Maybe hands come back to center as well. Just feel that. Notice any differences between the two sides. And then when you're ready, after taking that little pause, you can resume the gentle neck rolls a few times or go directly to the right side. So just sort of see what your body's asking for. And again, be really gentle because we're pulling and creating space. So our necks might feel actually a little more sensitive. That's okay. That's the process. Whenever you're ready, the right ear will land over the right shoulder-ish. You can also pull your chin forward a little bit more again, if that feels like it's a little bit much to have it back. Listen to your inner guru. Listen to this temple. And then any variation that you want, of course, with that left shoulder and the left arm. Softening the jaw. Exhaling into the moment. How does it feel to just be so perfectly human right now? To feel all of the aches and creaks and tension and opening and lengthening of the body. This divine vessel. Being firmly rooted, firmly established in our humanity, in our prakriti, in our shakti. And realizing that that does not in any way forsake our divinity. The spiritual pursuit is not foregoing humanity. It's embracing it. It's marrying the two. It's Kundalini rising up, right? It's Shakti rising up to meet Shiva. It's not the two going their separate ways. Humanity and consciousness merge together. So taking another inhale or so here. Coming back to center whenever you're ready. Couple more breaths here. Drinking in that soma, that nectar. Noticing how it feels for the prana to begin to flow through these spaces that have been so tight. And again, it might be really subtle. We might not even feel anything at all. All of it's okay. Even just let yourself know that in this moment, whatever my experience is, it's okay. This is the experience that my body has decided I need right now, and it's okay. So in just a moment, we'll come into our twist, but first just come back to center and feel that alignment from the root all the way up to the crown. You can change the crossing of your legs if you'd like to. But just feel that. Feel the seat bones rooted into the earth, that establishment. And feel the nice long spine as much as your body is capable of giving you. You might be a little hunched over for feeling really tight. It's okay. Whatever you can feel the alignment wherever you are. And give yourself permission to just be there. That's one of the most healing things we can do for ourselves is just be here, be where we are. Then just take an inhale Exhale really slowly. Just turn, look over your left shoulder as much as your neck will allow. We're just opening up these other muscles here in the front of the neck as well. Big breath. Exhale to center. Another inhale here. Drink it in. Exhale, looking over the right shoulder. Again, just notice, drink it in. Another inhale. Exhale to center. Pause right here, or if your body says it's really, really okay, your neck is not feeling any sensitivity at all, leading with your chin, take an inhale. Exhale, allow your chin to lead your head up just a little bit, just to open up the front of the throat. You don't have to do a super grand opening. Maybe it's right here tonight. There's no just. Maybe it's right here tonight. Maybe that's where we need to be. Just make sure that we lead with the chin so that we don't compress the back of the neck and spine. If this is okay and you want to explore just a little bit more, take an inhale. Breath of Kali, open the mouth, stick out the tongue. And then return to center. Pause, take about 5 or so breaths right here. If you want to resume neck rolls, if you want to be in stillness, whatever you need to just sort of integrate that which we just did before we move to the next set, the next sequence. Okay. So for our next move, we're going to come into a seated twist. So we're going to twist to the left. We lean into the feminine. We start with the feminine in this class, right? Always done that. So we'll hold to that tonight as well. So maybe there are a couple of ways to come into this twist. Firstly, you can keep seated like this, but if you want to come into the hips a little bit more, you can take this right leg behind you and come into deer pose. So your right foot is going to come to that right hip. So you can do this also so that you start to come into the hips as well. Completely up to you. You can also stay in Sukhasana. You can take your left arm out and just sort of walk it behind you, moving with the breath, right? So when we come into the twist, we really want to exhale. So taking an inhale and then maybe bringing the right hand to the left and just exhale. Again, we'll be holding this for a couple of minutes, so don't twist so deeply that it's going to become painful or uncomfortable for you. So you can stay here, or you might inhale the left arm up, exhale, set that left arm back behind you or wherever is comfortable. Maybe the right hand stays on the right knee and you just give yourself a gentle push. So again, lots of variations. Now this is a little more active, right? Because we're sitting upright. You can still use props. You can bring your hand to a cushion or a block, and that'll take some of the intensity out of the twist. You're still getting so many benefits out of the twist. So please do whatever feels nurturing and supportive for you. The strength we're building tonight is an inner strength. It's an inner strength to find our resource, to cultivate our resilience. This is something one of my teachers, Hala Corey, is working with me on right now, and a group of us with cultivating resilience through these practices of yoga, especially for those of us who have had some pretty intense experiences in our lives that still live in our nervous systems and haven't processed through yet. This idea of resilience and resourcing and grounding and being able to exhale, so important. And it starts with this simple little choice of giving ourselves the space to listen to what's best for us in any given moment, on or off the mat, and then to actually honor that. A lot of times we know what's best for us, but we do the opposite anyway because that's kind of our conditioning, or we don't want to cause a fuss or whatever it is. Every time we do that, we break the bonds of trust with ourselves. But when we say, okay, I know that I want to push myself to go really deep into this pose because that's my type A personality, Durga Dasi. But tonight my body wants something a little softer. So I'm going to listen to that. This might not seem like a big deal, but for our nervous systems and cultivating that relationship of trust with our inner guru, with our intuition, really big deal. Couple more breaths here. Notice if the jaw is clenched. Permission to soften. Permission again to focus on the exhale. Om Namah Shivaya. I trust what is. I honor the universe within me. I trust the universe. I trust Ma, God, divinity, whatever I call great mystery or great spirit. I trust that embodied in me and as me to guide me through this pose, this breath, this day, this situation. That's where the magic happens. Take an inhale. Any kind of exhale that you want to sort of ritualize this twist. And slowly, gently allow yourself to return to center. If you've taken deer pose, come back to Sukhasana or Padmasana or whatever you need. Just feel what's happening in the hip, in the rib cage. So my acupuncturist was telling me that in these muscles around here that wrap around from below the rib cage and the shoulders in the back, wraps all the way toward the front and connects with our core. We store unprocessed stuff in these muscles. So when we're doing these twists and when we're reaching these intercostal muscles and all of these things where we store our traumas and our things that we haven't yet been able to process for whatever reason, and we're not judging that, we're creating the space for that stuff to start to process and to heal. So just breathe with whatever's coming up for you in this moment. And then when you're ready, you'll take that twist to the other side. So you might take the deer pose if you want. You don't have to, of course. Oh, this side is a different side. So remember, we're creating that space for balance and harmony, not symmetry. So we might take a different course into getting into this pose this time, right, on this side. We might take the more gentle approach of sort of walking that hand behind us. Maybe left hand stays on the left knee and lifting up through the heart. Still going to get this in the hips and the heart. You're still getting the twist. Maybe you explore the lifting of the arm and really taking a deep twist and then finding your center. So your variation, your way. Maybe we use props. My friend Rampriya Das has this song where he says, "My love, it's just a reminder, find your center." And depending on where you place on the comma placement, right, in that lyric, it has a very different meaning. My love, this situation, it's just a reminder, find your center. Find your center in this, whatever this is. Or it could be, my love, this love is the reminder to find your center. Same, right? We know that everything is divine. Everything has the fingerprints of grace and God. This love, it's just a reminder, find your center. So another minute or so here, permission to exhale into that. Even though we feel twisted, even though we are definitely not centered physically right now, right? Our orientation is twisted. In this twist, in this constriction, Can we find our center? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. When you're ready, take that exhale of ritual and then find your center. Take your time, come out of that twist very slowly, very kindly. And then come back to your variation of Sukhasana, pose of ease, your pose of ease. Maybe taking that mudra, the Gyan mudra. This is the mudra of wisdom. So a few breaths with this mudra invites that guru to really speak. And then when you're ready, we'll make our way onto our backs. When you come onto your back, and do this with a lot of intention too, right? The transitions are sacred. On and off the mat, our transitions are sacred. We're coming back into the cradle of the Earth Mother, allowing more of us to be held by her. So it might feel really good to take a stretch. It might feel nice to hug those knees in toward the heart space. We're going to take one final set of twists here before we come into our final resting poses. So we can come into this a couple of ways. I'll guide you into the way that's a little less intense for those of us who are having some lower back stuff first. So hugging the knees in, take an inhale. Exhale, let those knees fall over to the left. Right arm will come out into a T. You can stay here, or if you want to play around with the intensity of the pose, you'll straighten that bottom leg out. So that's what, the left leg? So the left leg will straighten out, maybe even placing your left hand on your right thigh. And this, for me anyway, feels a lot more intense than when I have both knees bent. Again, our bodies are all different, so you can explore and see what's best for you. You might take a bolster or a pillow, put it between your knees. I'll show you on the side. Between your knees. Or if you have that bottom leg straightened out, you can still put it underneath that top knee. Just offering ourselves support. If this back shoulder is flying off the air, flying off the ground into the air, you might put a blanket or some sort of support under that shoulder too. So we don't want anything floating right now if we can help it. If we have the support available, let's go ahead and use that. Because we want to give ourselves that permission to feel very grounded so that the twist, so that we can feel heavier in our bodies and give all of everything to Mama Earth so that the twist can do the work without us having to manufacture any results, right? We're resting into the pose. We're allowing the twist to just take its form now. We did our active stuff, and now we're just returning home to Mama Earth to be held. You might look out over that right arm. Again, this will deepen the twist a little bit more for many of us. You might look right up, or you might look out over that left arm. That might feel better for you. Any variation you want. We'll be here for about another minute.
And of course, you're welcome to stay as long as you want. I know I love these rounded twists like this, are some of my favorites. I've actually been able to fall asleep in them. So you're welcome to rest here as long as you like. We're going to do the other side and then go into our Shavasana. So please feel free to take more or less time depending on what your body's asking for. So when you're ready, take that exhale of sort of wrapping up this side. And then find your center. And just when you come back to center, pause. Take any variation with your body that feels appropriate. I know for me, my lower back is pretty sensitive, so it feels better for me to have my knees bent when I'm coming back to center out of a twist. You can do that, or hug them in, or take a big stretch, whatever you need. When you come back to center, though, maybe just place your hands on your belly, or one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart, and just come back to that presence, to this breath. What's happening in the left side? What's happening in the right side? And then moving at your own pace with your breath in your own time, take that twist to the other side. So you might start with both knees bent, falling over to the right. You might then straighten the bottom, right? You know the variations, you know the options. What is your guru telling you to do or guiding you to do? And then once you find that shape that feels really supportive for you, exhale into it. Arrive here. How does it feel to just trust this moment, this unraveling? Where has any tension crept back in? There's no need to judge this tension. Tension just lets us know there's something to bring awareness to bring compassion to. That's all. It's not the enemy. It's a guide. So just notice whatever you're present to in this moment. Few more breaths here. And then take these last few breaths here. And when you're ready, you'll make your way back to center. Again, really slowly, take your time. There's no rush at all. And when you come back to center, maybe again taking the hand over the heart and over the belly. And just listen for a moment. So as we get ready to go into our final resting pose, what is the rest that you need? And what shape does your body want to take to bring you that rest? So you might want to go back into one of the shapes that we took. Take child's pose. You can take your legs up a wall, fetal position, rest on your belly, right? So lots and lots of variations. So just take those breaths, notice. What is the rest I am seeking? What is the rest that I'm needing? And what would that rest look like in the shape of my body with this asana? And then gather up all of your support and allow yourself to make your way into that shape, that pose.
Now I know when we come into Shavasana, all of us yoga teachers, myself included, have said, this is where we let go of everything. Well, okay, when I'm in Shavasana and I'm trying to let go of everything, my mind ramps up even more. So this is where we let go of trying. This is the pose of Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva is known for these rudraksha seeds, which are said to be his tears of joy when we embrace surrender. Surrender to what is. Because that makes the space and creates the wisdom for us to know how to progress and what to do next. As long as we're fighting against something, there's not a whole lot of space to look at what needs to be seen. So, permission to surrender. If your mind is active, surrender to that. If there's discomfort and you need to move and change your shape during Shavasana, surrender to that and let yourself do it. So Om Namah Shivaya, finding your resting pose, and then just letting go of the trying. So of course, you're welcome to stay in Shavasana as long as you'd like. When you're ready, return to center. What do you need to come back into this present moment? What little micro movements might feel good for you? Maybe more macro movements, maybe a big stretch. Take a few moments and allow yourself to check in, see what it is that you need. And then whenever you're ready, make your way into fetal position, whichever side you choose. Usually we go with the left, but you really don't need to be usual. Do whatever feels appropriate for you. And then when we come into that fetal shape, this is the pose of rebirth, Saraswati. Every breath, every inhale is a rebirth. Every inhale is Saraswati. Every exhale is Shiva. That's how much we live this life and death cycle every single day, right? Beginnings and endings, that's all it is. It's just a transition. So when you come into this shape that symbolizes the literal form we were in, right? When we came into this lifetime, just take a moment to reconnect to the breath, to the body, to the ancestry, to the lineage, to the land, to Mother Earth, to your intention, to your guru. It's a great mystery. And then when and as you're ready, very gently, as though you're helping a friend, take a seat if you'd like. Come back to your pose of ease. Your life is always going to be happening. Whether it's a global pandemic or a war within our own homes or hearts, there's always something going on that could cause us to go into crisis mode. And that's not to invalidate anything that we're experiencing. But the hurricanes and the tempests are always going to be swirling around. The beautiful thing about yoga is that it gives us anchor and resource so that we don't have to be thrown by the wind in every direction. Brandy Carlisle, one of my favorite musicians, says, you can dance in a hurricane, but only if you're standing in the eye. So whatever is going on around us, we can, with great practice and a lot of intention and willpower, come back to the present moment. That's not bypassing anything. It's not turning a blind eye to anything else that's happening. We still see the wind. We still bear witness to the wind. We hold space for the wind. But we, in and of ourselves, can do more to support those who are caught up in the hurricane by anchoring into the center first. So we exhale into the moment. We use these practices of yoga to get really, really intimate with that inner guru, so that we can hear those words of wisdom, so that we can know our own felt sense of knowing and trust. So that as the hurricanes are swirling around, we can find our center and we can create our lives with the knowledge of our divinity and the embracing of our humanity and everything in between. Anchored, rooted in Mama Earth and deep, deep ancestral sacred wisdom. And it requires us to return to center over and over and over again. So as we prepare to end this sweet time together with this yoga asana practice, as the yoga asana is coming to an end, the yoga practice is just beginning. So again, coming into that intention, our Sangha Sankalpa remains to be able to exhale in the moment, to be present, to find our center, no matter how twisted life gets. What is your Jiva Sankalpa? How do you want to live whatever you were present to tonight? Off your mat, in your heart, in your mind, in your body, in your home, in your community, in your family. That's how powerful you are, that you have the choice to do that. And it's a practice. Again, we say this all the time, but it's true. It's a practice. We're going to screw it up. And so then we come back to center. We anchor in again. We root deeply again into the truth of who we are. We resource into our resilience. We resource into Mother Earth, to our breath. And we simply begin again. And that's it. No need for shame or even guilt. Just let the guilt be the navigator that brings you back to center, if necessary, and then let it go on its way. So, beloved, what is your intention? And for just these last few moments, these last few breaths, see yourself in the eye of that hurricane, rooted. Feel your body rooted into Mama Earth. Feel that resolve. Give yourself permission to say yes to your intention, whatever it is. And trust both your humanity and your divinity to guide you to that place of feeling your wholeness and living your wisdom. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om shanti shanti shanti. Thank you so much for allowing me to find my center along with you, to be a part of your journey. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jaya Jagadambe Mata Ki. Jai Gurudev.